Final hour OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Jay's back in action tonight. We'll have our best bets on that. A wild pitch walk-off last night.
Ugh.
Man, that is particularly embarrassing. Like, if you're a really good team, if that happens to Baltimore, you just brush it off. You're like, that was fluky and weird. Whatever. But it just feels like it stings, and yet it feels so much more appropriate this year with the Blue Jays.
Of course.
Like,
of course
obviously
that's how they lost.
Find a different way to lose. Right? Some sneaky rally for the Giants in the ninth, and then a wild pitch walk-off.
Especially on a night when you get a virtuoso performance from Yusei Kikuchi.
Yes, he was great.
Who was really dealing.
Now,
13 strikeouts.
Would they have 3 hits? One of them just happened to be a 3-run blast, luckily.
Ernie Clement.
But outside of that, there was also no offense either. So it's not like the team, Kikuchi deserved to win that game.
Yes.
But the Blue Jays as a whole, as per usual this season, not necessarily deserving of a win.
That Clement home run was similar to the Springer 3-run home run the other day, where I think that was in the 7th inning as well.
Timely hitting.
Yes,
sometimes it works, and then sometimes you bounce a pitch and. Well,
they're not getting anything. Like, I saw someone send me stats today. The last time Bichette hit a home run, Bo's not even threatening.
He's got 4 homers.
No.
Not even threatening power. It's not as if you're watching and you're saying, man, the exit velocity or the barrel or whatever. He's not even close.
No, it's ugly.
To breaking out offensively.
I just think he's just trying to get on base. He's just kind of shortening the swing. I just need to get on base. At this point, you look at how often. This guy, his OPS is grossly low.
Yes.
It's hovering around 600. And this is a guy who's typically 850, 900 OPS when he's at his best. This has been such a terrible season for Bo Bichette. It's got to be weighing on him.
Yes.
Well, you wonder if the uncertainty around the team is weighing on him, because he's been the guy that's acknowledged, I wouldn't be surprised if I get traded. Everybody's wondering, what direction are they going? And how aggressively will they sell come the trade deadline? Assuming they'll sell come the trade deadline, because with this team, you assume nothing when it comes to upper management moves.
You think Jakob Poeltl's coming to town?
Oh, boy.
Hey.
You think a Jakob Poeltl situation could play out again?
I mean, when you listen to the baffled gab,
the
baffled gab that comes out of the mouth of Ross Atkins at times, would it really shock you if he zigged when we thought he should zag?
Well, I don't think they necessarily won't do something like that. I mean, we had Steve Phillips on the other day, and he was talking about it was Logan Allen, I think, the pitcher out in Cleveland. And he was like, this is a young guy. He's got control. He's struggling, but was a good prospect. Do you go out and buy those kind of reclamation projects, like a Robbie Ray a couple of years ago, right? They went and they grabbed Robbie Ray, and he turned into a pretty good player. They got their hands on him. Good old Pete got a hold of him and found the strike zone finally. And, he turned into a pretty solid pitcher for the Blue Jays. So they could still buy that type of talent, but when you're talking about, they're not going after rentals, obviously. But I think you could still see them, like a Jakob Poeltl. He wasn't, he was someone that they thought of as a future piece. So I think there still is a possible trade out there.
The thing is, they had to pay for Poeltl.
Yes.
So if the Jays do that, people in this market will go crazy. Because that means you're giving up prospects to go get the Jakob Poeltl equivalent. I think that would be asinine. I thought it was asinine when the Raptors did it. I could not believe they acquired Jakob Poeltl. That was all. You got to move off everyone at that point. Remember, Fred was up. What are you going to do with that? Ananobi? And then instead, they're like, no, we're going to keep Poeltl. We'll get into the play-in game. We'll have an 18-point lead on the Bulls. Tomorrow's daughter will start yelling and blow that, and the rest is history.
That was outrageous.
Yeah. No, it was unfortunate. And look, there's still rumblings that they may move on from Poeltl.
Well, I could see that as a trade deadline move.
But there's got to be some saving of face there for Masai Ujiri.
Yeah.
Given, to your point, the price he paid to get the guy in the first place and the illogical move that it was.
Right. And I would suggest the Jays do not take a page out of that book.
Yeah.
So
difficult to do to try and save face, though, when you make a mistake. I'd imagine a general manager looks at that, and it's sometimes a difficult decision to make.
It is. I have a lot of time for GMs who are willing to everyone makes mistakes.
Right.
Every it's going to happen, but don't compound it by more mistakes. Sometimes you just got to admit, hey, we got that one wrong. We're moving on. Okay. I think that's in the best interest of your team. Here's a GM on the line. I think that's what you're alluding to, Alice, brother. Here's the GM of the Utah Hockey Club. I love it. We've had the owner of the Utah Hockey Club on. I don't think we've had any members of the Utah Hockey Club. Here's Bill Armstrong. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing good, gentlemen. We don't make mistakes. We just got to cover them up. That's all.
That's right. I like that attitude. You just don't even acknowledge it. Just move on, right?
Just move on. Just move on.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
the old line is like we weren't wrong. We were just a little early on that one.
I like it.
Oh yeah. It's an unpredictable business, and you're dealing with human beings, and there are stuff that you can't foresee coming. Whether you're drafting, free agent, that's sometimes out of your control too. That come into your element, but it is. It's sometimes you look like a genius, sometimes not so much.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess as long as you had the right process, Bill, like you said, there's things that are out of your control. What happens with that 18-year-old, how he develops? What happens with, you acquire a player who is great elsewhere, comes in here, maybe just didn't fit your group for whatever reason. Like when you evaluate your moves of the past, if you do that, I'm sure you do, how much of it starts with, okay, did we have our process right? Like, did we have the information right? Okay, it didn't work out, but at least we can feel good that we didn't cheat ourselves prior to making the move.
Yeah. Well, and you know what's interesting about that? We go over a lot of stuff, whether it's draft or free agent signings, and we call them improvement meetings, and we go through all our mistakes, which are pretty painful at the time, but it goes back to your process, right? Why did you make that decision? And you got to look at it, and you learn a lot by looking backwards in this business and I think it helps you not make the same mistake twice.
Do you ever do that with other teams? Like, do you look at what other teams did right or wrong, like, and assess that and try to apply it to your own team?
We fix everybody else's team. We can tell you 100% what they did wrong in their build for sure. Yeah. It's easier to play the other team's GM than actually be a GM on your own team. Yeah,
absolutely.
So big change for you, Bill, moving to Utah with the franchise. I wanted you just to look back on how difficult it was the years in the tail end of the existence of the Arizona Coyotes. We just saw today news breaking that Alex Morello formally signed over the rights to the franchise, ending that saga that included obviously playing in a less than NHL specific arena and a lot of other obstacles that I'm sure you had to overcome there to try and put a hockey team together. How do you make sense of it when you look back?
That is an interesting question. There's some good, bad, and ugly. I think when the team didn't get the arena in Tempe, that really hurt. And there was some good hope that was going to get done, and our fan base was excited about it. It was the right spot. Our team was excited, and I can remember opening up the app personally and saw it. I was like, "Oh my God!" Didn't go through. I couldn't believe it. So that one really hurt. And there's some good stuff. We were able to accomplish probably. If you look at what COVID and the NHL and the flat cap, there's no team that made more hay than us in that time period, because we took on a lot of bad contracts and a lot of pain, get a lot of draft picks and turn those draft picks into prospects and move forward. But there's some good stuff on the hockey side of it, and we were able to acquire the Logan Coolies and the Gunthers, and at the time the Mosers, and kind of take a step forward. I really like our hockey ops department that came from the Coyotes, and that's something that we took a lot of pride in building. And Ryan Smith gave us an opportunity, obviously, because he took the entire staff from the hockey ops. 100% of the staff came with us to Utah. So it's there was a lot of good things that happened with the franchise in Arizona behind the scenes. But it was, there were some issues on a lot of fronts that you talked about, and made it very difficult to get a lot of things done.
How often would you have to have conversation with your players about what was going on? Was that your responsibility to keep them up to date on whether or not the team was staying, whether they were going, what rink you were playing in?
Yeah.
What role did you play in that?
Well, I had my role when I marched into Edmonton and talked to the players, there's a lot of interesting things that happen, and it wasn't a perfect world when the transition was going down and the new ownership was buying the team. And, there was just a point in time where I think as a GM, you had to make that decision to kind of just brief your club on what would potentially could happen. And I think they were grateful for that. I think our club went through a lot when it was first leaked in January. I think it crushed us. The second time it kind of came out, I think the club was resilient, but they did want to have some understanding of what might potentially happen. And so I think it made us stronger as a group going through that. I think it was a tough transaction for the NHL, the players, and obviously the new group buying it because it happened so quickly. But once we got through that, I think it was our players when they walked into Utah. I can't tell you how excited they were. We got off the plane and there was a hangar full of little kids that had taken the day off school, which I just thought was great, to greet us. And they were all chanting, and it was just, and then we went over to the rink and there's 18,000 people just screaming and hollering. So it was such an overwhelming response for us coming in there. I think our players are so psyched to play the first game at the Delta Center.
I am curious how different, I guess, this offseason was for you. There was some shackles, we could call them, that might have been on you with the financial restraints that the team had prior. But now with the new ownership, maybe those shackles came off a bit. Did it feel like you had a little bit more freedom to do things that you felt would be better for the hockey club to be more of a competitive team going forward?
Well, I think we were able to kind of, make some pretty good trades there that allowed us. But we were able to, go and get Sergachev and get Marino. That was huge for us, and make those two trades. And that allowed us not to get into the free agent market where we're taking basically a 30-year-old and giving him 7 years. And the issue that we had with that is not that it's not a smart move for some teams, but for our team, we're the second youngest in the league. So when we're starting to become really good, some of those contracts could hamper us. So we were looking to do more deals that we could get 26 and 27-year-olds kind of to grow with our club a little bit more. It's more towards the age brackets of the Krauss and the Kellers and the Haydens of the world, and also fits in tune with the Coolies and the Gunthers that'll help us move forward. So, money always helps for sure. Sergachev's not cheap, and neither is Marino. So I think, where the new ownership allowed us to kind of get into that market was good. And I think it'll help our club to take a step to be more competitive. And I think with those guys added, we're going to be a team that certainly take a step from where we were last year.
With Bill Armstrong, GM of the Utah Hockey Club, and you had that 6th overall pick. You took Tej Aginla with that pick, that first pick in Utah Hockey Club history, and the owners were up there. Ryan Smith and his wife Ashley were up there making that pick, and Calgary was at 9. There were some Canadian teams behind you, but I think we're hoping that Tej would get there. What do you know of him as a player? Obviously, you signed off on the pick, and how big of a role could he play in your team moving forward?
Well, first of all, the NHL did an amazing job with the Spear, but the Canadians picked in front of us, and Celine Dion, who did an amazing job announcing. But the part that was painful for us is that we were waiting to see who they were picking. And it took her about 5 minutes to get it out of her mouth. If they had a camera on our table, okay. She was like, and the Canadians select, and you can just watch our table. And then when she finally said, when they selected their pick, we exploded off the table because we knew we were getting our guy. So we were so excited about it. We had spent a lot of time with Tej and taking him to dinner, having his family in to meeting him, and we were hoping that he'd be there at our pick, and it was awesome. It was awesome. We took the DNA. He reminds us a lot of his dad, and we just thought, the way that he improved during the course of the year, his ability to shoot the puck, God-given. He's a sniper, but he can also make the play, and he's a competitive kid. Like if you're around him long enough, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Logan Cooley. Logan Cooley's got that sneaky competitiveness in his eyes. Like, he wants to compete. So Tej has that. He wants to do things faster, better, and he's always pushing the envelope. So we really liked TJ as a hockey player and as a person, and obviously his family and where he came from. We're so excited to get him.
Hey, Bill, you made you got some social media traction a few days back. Apparently leaking the name of your hockey club. Not going to be the hockey club forever, apparently. Did you take some heat for letting out the Yeti through your lips, or what did you make of that?
Yeah, I did. I did take a little bit of heat, but then the next press conference I went and I announced it was the Outlaws.
That's great.
Throw them off the trail.
Yeah, I had to throw them off the trail. The little kids, the only reason I said that, because when we landed in Utah, the little kids were chanting it, So, and I think they vote about 7 times a day on the name. So I think the little kids are going to they're going to pick the name at the end of the day, which is not a bad thing because, as they grow older, it's going to be their team. So I don't know the name of the team. I can be honest with you on that. So I think it's the Outlaws.
Okay. That. I like it. Yeah, because O-Dog's been yelling for Mammoth. He wants Mammoth.
I know.
As long as it's not
I like
Mammoth.
too.
I like Mammoth too. I just don't want O to be right because he'll claim that it was his call. So that's all that matters to me in the end.
What was the first time I heard it? I will say.
Yeah,
really?
It's a pretty solid handle. I'll say that. But we're waiting for it. It's exciting. Obviously, it's been exciting to see you guys set up shop out there in Utah, and we had Ryan Smith on the show with us, and really interesting guy, and we're intrigued to see where you guys take this, Bill. So congrats on the first steps taken in Utah and the moves you've already made so far, and enjoy the rest of the off season. I'm sure we'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
Hey, thank you for having me on. Much appreciated. And listen, we expect for you guys to be cheering. You get 2 teams to cheer for, so I know you're cheering for your Leafs, but in the background, we need you to cheer for Utah too. All right?
You got it. We're on that bandwagon. We'll take care of that for you. Don't you worry, Bill. We'll do it for you. Thank you for this.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
You got it. There's Bill Armstrong, GM of the Utah Hockey Club. Really, really good guy. An interesting story. I love what he said about wait for the Habs to make the pick. Because all you're thinking there, you're not even that's Celine Dion in Vegas, which if you're just in the stands, you'd have a great appreciation for it.
Yeah.
But if she's representing possible heartbreak by who she announces, you're like, let's go. Come on. Pick.
We need to
hear it.
Well, it's like you sitting down, it's as if you are a Coyotes fan too. You have the exact same thing when you're sitting down watching them. Like when the Packers are on the clock or the team before, and it's like, don't take that guy, don't take that guy.
Don't take.
And then either you have heartbreak because that player was taken, or it's like, okay, they're free to take that player, and 80% of the time they don't take that player and they go elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, but TJ Ginla looks like that was a solid pick, I think. But
that he's going to be interesting to track, and you've got. Obviously Ginla's kid out there. You got Shane Doan's kid out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Both of them played together in Kamloops, and I think are pretty close friends. So we'll see what Utah's got. I mean, they've got Sergachev there now, and he mentioned John Marino they acquired. They signed Ian Cole to a 1-year deal. They're trying to stabilize the defense. They're a very young team. They're building. It's going to take some time, I think, out there. But if you have resources, that goes a long, long way.
Yeah.
And they're going to be playing actually in a professional rink, which I don't think that can be overstated.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
The fact that we'll actually have, 15,000 people around
Not
as opposed to 5 and
Brutal.
a student band in the corner.
Well, that's the thing. Bill was very diplomatic there when he recounted his Arizona adventure, but those were tough working conditions for everybody involved.
Right. Which sucks for me because I coined the term Arizona State University Coyotes, and I loved using that as much as I could. It was my one of my favorite lines.
Should ask him how
No
he felt
disrespect,
about it.
Arizona.
That was a tough one.
It's RIP. I can't use it anymore.
Yeah, no, there was disrespect for Arizona.
There was so much disrespect.
So much.
Whenever you say this isn't a game against Arizona in November. No disrespect, Arizona.
Which is hilarious.
It's so disrespectful. I was being disrespectful.
And rightly so.
I admit that's precisely what I was doing.
They deserved it.
I'm not sugarcoating it. You were playing at a university team's hockey rink in Arizona.
Yes.
Brutal.
Not North Dakota or BU or, something uphill here at McGill or U of T or something. Arizona State Sun Devils.
Incredible.
And the Coyotes.
Amazing that it ever happened.
Thankfully, that's come to an end. And I'm curious to see what happens in Utah. All right, thanks again to Bill Armstrong. All right, Kevin Kilbane will join us. England is through. England scoring in the 90th minute. They're through to the final against Spain on the weekend. We'll look back on the game today, look ahead to the final, and also what did Kevin think of Canada-Argentina last night? He was in the building. It was an electric atmosphere. Canada obviously losing 2-0. They're off to the third-place game, either Colombia or Uruguay. We'll find out who they play tonight. So we'll look back on the match last night. What does he make of it? Where does Canada go from here? Kevin will join us in studio next. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. Still to come later in the hour. Jays Giants tonight. Colombia Uruguay tonight to see who will play Argentina in the Copa America final. And we'll also see whoever loses tonight will play Canada in the third place match on the weekend. But the final is set in the Euros as England got past the Netherlands 2-1 today. So it's England-Spain in the final. It's a great final.
Great final.
Phenomenal final. And England, you know, they haven't won anything, a major tournament since 1966.
Yeah.
So this is another crack at it. They had a crack at it 4 years ago. They couldn't get it done, and now they're back in the final. See what they got. I'm curious how FanDuel is going to have the odds. I think there's so much money that comes in on England, like that will skew the odds a little bit.
Yeah,
like push it towards England. And England coming into the tournament was the favorite going in. Again, I think in large part because of the amount of money that comes in. Yet,
but also
their
because of their talent
would suggest that that's probably appropriate.
Yeah.
Yet I look at the way Spain has played. Like Spain has been so good, so dominant. I would guess Spain should be a slight favorite, maybe a pick 'em, but that's probably what you want in a final, right? And Kevin Kilbane will join us here in a moment. Thanks again to Bill Armstrong for joining us. We had Barry Trotz on earlier today. Like a lot of the GMs in the hockey world, I think in the NBA as well, just kind of easing into the summer now. Right, a lot of the heavy lifting's done. But we have Canada-U.S. tune-up game in Vegas tonight. And the Canadian team has been announced, and they're off to Paris. We had Leo Routens join us a couple hours ago. A lot of optimism right now around Canada.
Why shouldn't there be?
Yeah, I know it's pretty cool. Like when you consider what's going on the men's side in basketball, what's going on the men's side in soccer. You know the women are going to supply a lot of activity as well. But, you know, for a nation that we kind of drive home the sports that we always drive home, a lot of optimism with the soccer team, a lot of optimism with the basketball team.
Oh, huge. I mean, you had this I think our national soccer team on the men's side just did what it's never done before, which is announce itself as a serious contender on the world stage, right? Which is great considering we're going to be hosting the World Cup in a couple of years. And now you've got the men's basketball team as the second favorite in a lot of sports books to win gold at their first Olympics since 2000.
Right.
Think about that.
Like it's similar to the World Cup gap, not far off.
86
to 22.
Right.
Like you said, 2000 to 24. That's a long time.
Been a long time, man, since they've had this chance. And you look at this tournament, and it's like they can win it. As Leo said, they can win gold. You're going to have to get some luck. You're going to have to get some dead-eye three-point shooting. You're always going to need three-point shooting in FIBA. And you're going to need the Americans probably to wobble a little bit.
Everyone always needs a little luck.
Yeah, you need things to break your way. And I guess technically that happened today with Kawhi Leonard pulling out of the American side. I don't think he was citing injury. It's almost like just I'm going to get injured or there's a chance. And I'm
always injured.
Like what I don't understand is this report that Wiggins was told you can't play by Golden State. Yet the Clippers were going to let Kawhi play. Like no team has got worse payback on their investment than the Clippers with Kawhi. He's hurt all the time. They never win anything. And Kawhi was contemplating going to play at the Olympic Games. Like how was that possible that the Clippers didn't step in and say, you can't do that?
They can't do that. Teams can't do that.
Okay, so then what's the explanation with Wiggins?
I mean, obviously it's a give and take.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like when they announced that Wiggins was going to be on this team or come to training camp, I said it out loud. I said, I'll believe it when I see it.
Right.
Like this guy does not have a history of
wanting
stepping
to
up.
play. Yeah.
Of
Why
stepping
is
up
that,
for his
though?
country.
Why is there an issue with Wiggins and basketball Canada? Like he was like one of the top prospects to come out of Canada basketball in like forever.
He was the number
guy.
one prospect in the history of this country.
Yeah.
At 16, 17, 18. There's no one that's been close to Wiggins.
And at his best, when he gave you what he gave the Warriors en route to the 2022 title, he's our best player.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was unbelievable in that 2022 title run.
Yep.
But since then, there's been no sign of that player.
Right.
And the Warriors have been scratching their heads. There's all kinds of rumblings about what goes on off the court, and I'm sympathetic to that. I'm sure we've all got you never know what's going on in somebody's life, right? And but it goes beyond even that with Wiggins and the national team, because this is a long-standing situation where he just really hasn't been particularly interested. He showed up to the one attempt at qualifying out in Victoria for the previous Olympics, didn't go particularly well. He lost to Czech Republic, and that's why everybody that pays attention to this team has always raised the skeptical eye anytime it's announced he's coming.
Right.
And what do you know? He's not coming.
But it's a big loss. Like to what you're saying here, like that's a significant talent that is probably starting. If not, he's your sixth man, and he can defend when he wants to. He can shoot. Like he would fit in so well. And again, you don't have to be the man. Like it's as if he's never been seeking that spotlight from his days in Minnesota. Obviously to Golden State where he didn't have to be. You wouldn't have to be here.
No.
Like it's Shea.
Just be a good role player.
It's Jamal Murray. Just go up and defend and hit shots and be predictable and be reliable. And obviously something broke through there. But, with Kawhi, it sucks because Kawhi's hurt all the time. Like he's hurt. His body is broken down on him. I don't know how prone he is to fighting through a lot of injuries. I mean, I think there has to be a give and take there too. Yes, your body's broken down, but I'm pretty sure there's times where Kawhi's just said, I'm not going to play, even though he probably could. But when you look back at this generation, LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, like that's your big three. Is Kawhi the fourth guy? Like in the last 15 years? Like would you say, or the last 10, would you say Kawhi's the like who
for American basketball or just basketball?
Mean, like even
like
just
NBA.
I guess American, but even in the NBA, like James Harden might put his hand up.
Chris Paul
maybe never won anything.
Well,
Harden hasn't either. Russell Westbrook hasn't won anything.
Kawhi's got 2 Finals MVP.
Yeah,
2 different teams.
Right.
I mean, pretty amazing.
Look who he beat. He beat Steph in Golden State. He beat LeBron in the Heat in LeBron's prime.
Yeah, beat Giannis in Giannis's prime.
Right.
Like he took down the head. I'll never forget that when they were down 0-2 to Milwaukee in that title run. There was a feeling that, down 0-2, the percentages aren't good. But I remember somebody in that management group saying, you know what advantage we got? Giannis is afraid of Kawhi. Giannis is afraid of Kawhi. And then Nick Nurse devised that defensive wall with Kawhi at the head of the snake. What'd they do?
Yeah, they completely
1-4 straight. They completely neutralized Giannis. And the rest is history.
And Fred woke up, started hitting shots.
Well, that helped too.
Yes, that was significant. But you're right. That's again, as we said earlier. Like it's almost when you consider where he was before he got here, where he was broken in San Antonio, and there was obviously malcontent. There was some issues there between the two parties. Like he didn't trust the Spurs didn't trust him.
Which
was
weird.
It was ugly
because they're the gold standard franchise of the league,
right?
And that gave people a lot of second thoughts about what kind of guy this guy was.
Right, exactly. If he's not willing to play for Pop and San Antonio and look at the success he's already had, and now like Duncan's out of the way, Parker's out of the way, you're the man. Like there's no questioning who's the guy down there, and he still wanted no part of it. And when you look what's happened since he left the Raptors, like he gave them 60 regular season games and he played every night for 2 months.
Yeah.
And
hasn't done it since.
It's like a borderline miracle now that you look back on it, how he didn't break down against Philly or Milwaukee, Orlando in the first round. Who knows? Like, would that have been shocking? Now that like the history we have now in front of us.
Right, in hindsight.
They lost game 1 to Orlando, and then they ended up beating them in 5, but they were horrible that night. Like, if he went limping off that court, who knows what happened?
Check, please. I'm out of
here.
Right.
Anyway.
If mentally he's like, actually, I don't know if we got it or I'm not feeling it, we're down 1.
Why should I put my body on the line?
They would have still come back and beaten Orlando even without Kawhi. They would have handled them. But would they get through Philly? Probably not. I mean, we know the role he played in Game 7 in that series. They've gotten through Milwaukee, probably not.
No way.
Like he was the integral part. And the way he played, he slowed down a little bit in the final. In terms of statistics and everything, still was playing big minutes and was a big part of it. But other guys stepped up. Like Kyle had a great Game 6. Van Vliet was great in the final. But his play, the Orlando series, not as much, again, because there was such a disparity. There was so much better than them.
Yeah.
But the way he played against Philly and Milwaukee is just
Jordan-esque. I remember writing the
unbelievable.
stats. Like you were looking at stats for a guy, putting up numbers and over, a stretch of this many games in a playoff run. And the only comparables were Michael Jordan.
Right.
It was amazing.
Yeah. In terms of his efficiency, in terms of his lockdown D, in terms of
and everything.
Everything
Doing
across
everything
the board.
out there.
Yeah.
And it was just, and for sure efficiency, because Kawhi does not waste a movement.
He
right?
doesn't waste anything.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was because it really is like just the way he dribbled, the way he'd come off screens, the way he would go up for rebounds. Like everything was
purposeful,
borderline on robotic, yet remarkably effective.
Just get to the spot and make the shot.
And hit your shot.
What are you going to do about it? Because I'm the strongest guy out here.
And yet, with that in mind, that shot he hit against Philly was athleticism on display.
Yes.
Like for you to take the ball where he took it and get it to where it got and to get that shot off.
Over Embiid.
Over Embiid. That's athleticism. Like that street ball athleticism that he obviously had the capability of supplying as well. On top of all the fundamentals that he brought to the table.
That's so true, man.
What a year, man.
Yeah.
What a year.
What a year.
What a year.
We're talking about him as if he's retired. He hasn't. He's off the
Just got a new deal.
Just got a new deal. But now he doesn't have PG with him. Now I guess it's him and Harden who are running together.
I would love to,
I don't know what happens with the Clippers in the West.
When his career is over, all right, and he sits down, writes a memoir, probably not going to happen, but someone sits down and asks him, having a pint, and they say, if you could go back, do you wish you stuck with the Raptors? Like knowing what happened and how things didn't play out for the Clippers and how the injuries kind of just persisted throughout. Like, obviously, the Raptors did a really good job managing that. And who knows, revisionist history, maybe his body would have failed him anyways. But what we know is Alex McKechnie had a great plan, right, to make sure that he was good enough. They played him just 60 games in the regular season so that he would be good to go come playoff time. And it worked out to perfection. I wonder if, 10 years from now, if Kawhi thinks back and he thinks, maybe I should have stayed. Maybe things would have been different.
I don't get the sense that's how he's wired.
No?
Not knowing him personally, but just the way he operates. Because he's won his titles. He's got his money. He wants to be in L.A. Should he regret it professionally? He should. He should have the moment he left. Like, that's never happened before where a guy of that status, superstar, like, out of this world, maybe best player in the world, wins and leaves.
Yeah.
That does not happen. No one wins and then goes, I'm leaving. He did that. So I think professionally, he should have regrets. I think he should have had regrets immediately, and maybe he will. Personally, I don't get the impression he reflects that way.
He's a California guy.
That's
a lot of
it was always about going
California.
back to LA. I mean, Nick Nurse just did an interview recently talking about that when he first spoke to him. Said, I'm coming up, I'm playing for you, I'm playing hard, I'm going to try to win, and then I'm not guaranteeing you anything.
Right.
Like, the fact that a championship didn't change his mind would suggest to me he never really put any thought into staying.
Absolutely.
Like, never really thought about it.
No.
And you can't underestimate guys. Like we know what happened, okay? Like, the commissioner himself said what happened. Like, people were paying stuff under the table beyond the salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
Like
there was some funny
that actually
business going
happened. We don't know that. We don't know the details, but we know the commissioner of the NBA said it happened. Not specifically on Kawhi, but you can infer it was about Kawhi.
Yeah. Well, and the Clippers, like with Lawrence Frank always being up here and hanging around, and Steve Ballmer,
Ballmer's reaction at the presser.
But we don't know. All I'm saying is the richest man in North American sports got him.
Yeah.
And we don't know how, and we don't know where the bodies are buried in the real estate is, tucked away, or the sweetheart handshake deal is going to be consummated 10 years later. Who knows? But it happened.
It worked out. Although it didn't work out because they haven't won a thing.
No.
It's worked out financially and personally for Kawhi, not professionally. All right, Kevin Kilbane will join us in studio. His take on England getting through today. Canada, Argentina last night. A full breakdown. We'll do that with Kevin next. All right, Best Bets coming up, brought to you by FanDuel. The final of the Euros is established. We have England versus Spain, and Kevin Kilbane is in here, one of the hardest working men in show business. Look at you. Great to see you, man.
Hardly. No, great to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
We appreciate you doing this. Before we get to the English game, let's go back to last night. You were in the building. Argentina gets past Canada 2-0.
Yeah.
The build-up, the atmosphere, what did you make of it live?
Yeah, it was a great build-up to the game. Great setting as well there as well. I think when Argentina were playing, we felt it in Qatar as well. You get that real feeling of a big game atmosphere, a huge game on a huge level. And as the night progressed, maybe an hour out from kick, and you could feel it because we were looking out onto the parking lots outside and all the Argentine fans were pulling up. And then we started to see loads of Canadian fans coming in. So there was probably 5 times the amount of Canadian fans in New York last night, New Jersey last night, than were in probably Atlanta. So that was great to see. There was a lot of Canadians there as well that added to the atmosphere. And most of the Canadians were around where we were sat as well. So it probably boosted our own atmosphere as well. But big games like that, I think they're invaluable to Canada now and how they're going to progress.
Well, and last night, I mean, I thought they played pretty well.
In spells.
In spells, is that how you'd say it? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I thought they started quite well. Mm-hmm. And I thought they managed the start of the game really well, because I think the thing that we were talking about before the game or prior to the game, we were saying, look, don't concede early, because if Argentina get up in this game, it's going to be hard to go and then contain them and get the ball back from them, really, to get chances. And I thought they managed to start the game too well. I thought they were patient. I thought there was a clear game plan from Jesse Marsch and how he wanted to set the team up. But they invariably start to get the better of you because of the quality that they've got, and they did. I think last night we saw the true Argentina side. We hadn't really seen it through Copa, and last night, once they really turned it on, and the first goal proved it when that came on. Messi nearly had a second. And Messi, I felt tonight, was probably at his not at his greatest best or at his best level, but I think we saw a different Messi than we've seen through this tournament. It's almost as if I'm in a semi-final. This is a big game.
Right.
I've got to turn it on, and that was the thing. That was the difference in the end.
Well, how much closer, I guess, has Canada? They're not with these soccer elites, obviously, but like how much closer throughout the last couple of weeks here had they put themselves into that conversation?
I think it's a great question, and you know what? We're probably only going to find out that in the next maybe year or so, and maybe even beyond that into the World Cup, because they've got to learn from this. They've got to fully realise that, yeah, we know that Canada didn't score a lot of goals in this tournament, but I think they were certainly competitive, and that's the most important thing I feel at this level, the level that Canada are playing right now. They had to be more competitive. They had to really feel that we're really in games and we've got a chance of scoring. They should have scored against Argentina down in Atlanta early on in the Copa. They created numerous chances against Peru, took the one big one that they had, and against Chile they created chances. The Venezuela game was probably one of the biggest games, or one of the best games I've ever watched live, and it was just such a great atmosphere. And then finishing with the penalty kicks, it just added to it all, in my opinion. So I think in answer to your question, are they closer? I think they are. I think Jesse Marsch feels that, but I think it's up to the players now to almost like switch on now with the clubs. I think the attitude has got to improve. I think the levels of performance day to day at the clubs has got to improve. And I think that maybe if that's the case, we'll see it maybe down the line.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that. What do you mean by the attitudes have to improve?
Well, Jesse Marsch has said it himself. I think he's really challenged the players to be better day to day. I think there's probably, and I think even when I was playing as well, I think there was a tendency within the game that maybe have a slack week, and the longer that I was in the game, you can't do that. You cannot do that. And I think there's a certain feeling, and it's not being disrespectful to the MLS, but there's a feeling around the MLSs. There's games that don't necessarily mean as much as the next game. And I think Jesse Marsch has challenged the players to say, whatever environment you're in, you've got to be the best every single day. When you turn up for training, when you turn up for practice, when you are playing in that game, you've got to be the best, or try to be the best in every single game. And I think we will probably see a better Canada because of that, if that can be the case going down the line.
Kevin Kilbane in studio. So that's happening in the Copa America. We'll see who Canada ends up playing in that third place game, Colombia, Uruguay tonight, and I guess who Argentina will play in the final. But we have a final set in the Euros. England getting past the Netherlands today 2-1. They score in the 90th minute. They're through.
Yeah.
Gareth Southgate's taken so much heat, yet he's got them back in the Euro final. And Spain's waiting for him. What did you make of the English side today? And do you think it's justified that they're sitting in a final?
Well, they haven't been great throughout the tournament. I thought they were a lot better in the first half, in particular today. I thought they played well. I think we saw the best of Phil Foden, who the superstar at Man City, the Premier League Player of the Year last season. We just haven't seen it across the course of the Euros. But today he was a lot better. I think his relationship with Kobbie Mainoo, who the Manchester United midfielder, that relationship was definitely telling today for England, particularly in the first half. That was maybe the key factor for England in the first half. But second half, we saw maybe a typical England performance. They sat off the Netherlands. The Netherlands started to dictate and have chances in the game. And England's first shot on target was actually in the second half was Ollie Watkins' winner. Mm-hmm. So I think England's strength has been in the defence. I think they've been difficult to break down. And that's, I feel, the only way that they can actually beat Spain, because Spain have been a much better side throughout this tournament. I think England needs to raise it a level again if they are going to go on and beat Spain.
Yeah, see, it's a great final, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a classic.
I mean, England, Spain, in Germany, you can't really beat that.
No, it is, and I think it's everything that we would have wanted. I think for the semis, we would have wanted it. 4 great nations. 4 great nations with histories as well at World Cup and Euro level. Mm-hmm. So I think we got everything we wanted from the semis and the final. I think the semis yesterday with Spain against France took it up a level, because the quarterfinal was a bit, I think, maybe a level down from what we'd seen in the group stages and even in the last 16 games. And today was the same. It was a highly technical, brilliant game to watch, and I think we'll get a good game in the final too.
Yeah, it should be great. I can't look forward to it on the weekend.
Who you guys got? Who you taking?
I'm going with Spain. I can't bet on England.
You can't go beyond Spain.
You can't bet on England in a big match. No chance.
You've got Spain.
I actually tipped Spain at the start of the tournament. I think Spain coming into it had a clear way of playing that I think was distinctive to the style of play that they had. They were excellent to play, or excellent to watch, should I say. So I think coming in, they were my team that I thought I think they'd at least hit a final. They've done that, and I think they've been the best team this tournament without a doubt. Yeah.
Well, and Yamal will be 17, right?
Yeah,
so
17
that's
Saturday.
He'll be 17 years old. So at least he's coming of age, I guess, for the final of the Euros. Well, great seeing you, Kevin.
Thanks,
I know
guys.
it's been a crazy 24 hours. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much. Cheers, guys.
Great seeing you. There's Kevin Kilbane joining us here, and Kevin will be all over TSN tonight, throughout the weekend as well. It's great to see him, and we appreciate him joining us here in studio. So there you go. He's on Spain, I guess, still in the final. I'll jump on board with that. Why not?
I'm taking England.
You're on England.
I'm taking England just because, look, they were the favorites all the way through. I love the fact, like, we bail out the Maple Leafs year after year after year. I hear people say it's too hard to play in this town.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure on these guys. How do you expect them to get out of bed in the morning? It's so tough to be a Leaf. These guys are playing soccer in the home of soccer. They haven't won since 66, let alone 67. And here they are, performing, finding a way. There's naysayers saying the coach doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
There's naysayers saying they're underperforming, but they're getting results.
It would be a greater story, undoubtedly. And maybe that's what the Leafs need. Bring the Cup playoffs, Stanley Cup finals to Germany.
Yes.
Let's get it overseas, and the Leafs will be a dynasty.
There you go.
I think that's probably the answer they're looking for. Undoubtedly a better story if England wins.
Yeah.
Spain's had so much success.
Yeah, for sure.
They just won 2 Euros in a World Cup a decade ago. They're back here maybe ahead of the curve, I think, in terms of this new wave of Spanish, stardom. And I mentioned Yamal, who's 16, will be 17. Like, they have a great future. England is knocking on the door all the time. It would be a great story to see them win.
It would.
Like, it would just be an explosive international story that England finally did it.
Well, it was almost, how do I say, laughable, but people dismissed when they were announced as, like, the betting favorites to win the chance. It's like, well, it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, like, you're just throwing your money away if you're betting on England. And here they are in the final with a chance to actually pull through and prove to be the champions, the favorite.
Maybe they'll give hopes to everyone around the world.
That's
always not
give hopes to the Maple Leafs.
Right? The Leafs, the Knicks.
That's right.
Cowboys.
I guess the Cowboys.
The Cowboys won in the
90s, and they won 3 times in the 90s. The Knicks haven't won anything since, the 70s? And the Leafs since the late 60s. So over here, I'd say it's Leafs, Knicks, because now that the Cubs and the Sox have won, they're out of the mix. It's Leafs, Knicks, England.
Yeah.
That's your 3-pack. That's your trilogy of massive market, massive media coverage, huge fan base, obnoxious fan base.
No wins.
Everyone, you either love or you hate them.
That's the thing.
And they just don't win.
Like, you hear the Leafs talk about the noise. There's no greater noise than the England noise.
Right.
Well, European soccer, the noise gets taken up 16.
Like, it's actually like vitriol noise.
Yeah.
Like, it's to the point where it's really uncomfortable.
Like, people attack the buses over there.
There's actually, people get in arguments because Leaf fans have the audacity to say, maybe we should change something here.
Yeah.
And then people are like, how dare you? Do you know how tough it is?
We need a 7 o'clock start in the game in Edmonton.
Yeah.
And that's World War III apparently over here.
Yes.
Over there's a lot more
Different
situations going on.
Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today and find thousands of ways to play. All right, the Best Bets, again, powered by FanDuel. I'm on the under tonight. Bassett, and you've got, a Giants team here that's pretty good. But, again, I don't think you got a lot of offense. Webb on the mound for the Giants. I see this being a pitching duel. I see 3-2, 3-1. I just don't think the bat's going to be alive on either side. It's a low number of 7. It's low.
Marine layer baseball.
Yes, but you're getting a bit of plus money on that. I'm on the under tonight. Again, Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. And you must be 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. Alice, brother, great seeing you.
Thank you.
We never got to your wrestling filter. We'll get to it. We will get to that.
We'll get
Save
to
it.
it.
We'll get to it. We got a long summer here. Dave, great seeing you.
Great seeing you.
Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
Seen as the GOAT, 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.